All right, let's get cozy. So first I just want to touch on the layout. Like many great SF apartments, you start walking down a long, creepy hallway with the bathroom on your right. And then straight in front of you, you'll see the bedroom. And then if you turn to the left, that's where it opens up into this kind of long rectangular space, which is the living room on this side and the kitchen on that side. So this is like the main living area. And that's pretty much it. That's the whole bedroom except for like a walk-in closet. The shelf. So this was kind of a bold DIY decision, and I hope we get our security deposit back, but you know, sometimes some things are more important than security deposit. So we just bought a thin piece of like redwood at a hardware store, and then these brackets from Amazon that you can just like drill into the wall, and they're all on studs. So this thing, you could probably sit on it. I'm not gonna push it. Because there's already a crack forming in the wall over there. Don't tell anyone. All right, welcome to the dining room area. This is like the end of the living room. We have these nice bay windows. A lot of SF apartments have bay windows, and it's a great place to sit and drink coffee and watch the street life.
Take an espresso and watch the street life.
I'm watching people right now waiting at the bus stop. And believe it or not, this morning, I look over there and I see this chicken crossing the road back and forth. He's like a guy in a costume that's like an inflatable, or it looks like he's like riding a chicken. I'll roll a clip. And I go and ask him what's going on, and because I thought it was like a fantasy football punishment or something. And turns out he's with the police, and they're ticketing people who like drive illegally around the chicken. So they're ticketing for that in San Francisco, if you live here. And it brightened my day. And it's just like a funny little street level interaction that I will miss. Most apartments have that one true special item that like you have to buy from that apartment. And for us, that was this credenza. It had to be really thin just so that it wasn't visually taking up too much space. I had these exact dimensions in mind when we went hunting for a credenza. There's actually two little credenza unit things stuck together. This is a larger scale piece of art. It's a poster that my boyfriend picked up from a Krungbin show. We love them. We dressed up as two of the three band members a few Halloweens ago, Laura, Lee, and Mike Spear. This poster was specifically made for the show, and it's so fun. Definitely captures like the vibe of a city apartment, except that this is a colorful city, and our city is always gray with fog, but what can you do? So this coffee table, which I will show, we got for $0. This was one of those free on Facebook Marketplace coffee tables. And I went and picked it up because I like the bones. It was a dark wood finish, basically just painted, I guess, on the exterior. So before we ever moved in together, my boyfriend and I spent like a full 24 hours sanding this thing down. And that was a real good relationship test for moving in. And I don't know if I'd ever recommend that to anyone. Like if you're gonna get kind of cheap wood, just be careful. There are places where it's like particle board. Anyways, I don't know. This here is Philip. So Philip, we bought when we first moved in, and we bought him off a guy on Facebook Marketplace who was named Philip, who had great energy. So we named this plant after him, and it proceeded to die and then has kind of been resurrected. There's some new growth, but I just looked at a picture of when we first moved in, and he was like much stronger. So maybe he'll like our next place more. We'll see. In this room, we also have sort of like a renter-friendly light fixture that's a cover for the boob light. So right before I was moving in, I was finding this company called Tulip, and they make covers specifically to solve this problem, which I think is really creative and cool. My thoughts on it, I'd say good, not great. Good, not great. Creates like a soft lighting effect. We had to take off the boob light cover, like the big heavy glass thing, And so there's a hole in the bottom. So if you look up, you'll see like the raw bulb. So that's not ideal, in my opinion. I guess you could try to leave the boob light cover on there. I'm not really sure what the vision was there. But that's like kind of a downside. The other is that it doesn't actually fit over our boob light. I think I was maybe naive in thinking that all boob lights were created equal. And maybe like the real thing, they are not. There are different sizes. And ours is a little big. So it doesn't fully fit. So my uncle had to really get up there and do some creative screwing into the ceiling. But yeah, so I guess if you're gonna go for something like this, know your boob light intimately and then get the right size cover. Though it's one size from the company, so I don't know. So first we have these bar stools. There's a nice bar here. Probably could have fit 3. I wanted something kind of like hefty and substantial. And I ended up getting these at Target, of all places, believe it or not. And this rounded kind of like thick top reminds me of those like historic American furniture, which I really like. And they are very sturdy. They serve as like really good step stools to like turn off the fire alarm or, you know, grab things from cabinets. And then the kitchen's great, but I can't take credit for much of it. It's just like, it has good bones and is big. But I'll say a couple of things. One, over there, I was so excited. This is probably the thing I was most excited for moving in here, was to freaking get glass jars and put little labels on them. Just wanted to have that cool, like, crunchy granola, Mendocino mom energy, and it's gonna develop over time. I really struggled to find the name of what I was looking for. It's called an embossing label maker. This embossing label maker is what I was looking for. I don't know why, I just dreamed of having a large mason jar full of rice, and now I've lived out that dream and can say it exceeds expectations. And then on this side we have this kind of like cute little kitchen vignette with some calendar, some art, some photos, some fruit. This was my boyfriend's like one true and special item that had to exist in his last apartment for his kitchen to function. It was so small. So now it's here and it's great. This one other thing I'll show you here is this first project I did when I got a sewing machine for Christmas was a little rag holder that can hold our dirty towels so they don't have to commune with our dirty clothes. I feel like that's a lot of the fun of having the ability to make stuff, is making something that solves a real problem in your house, and you don't have to buy anything. You could definitely buy like solutions for things like this, but I had an old pillowcase I wasn't using, so it got repurposed, which was a fun one. So I think that's the kitchen. So we're in the bedroom slash office, and there's a few things I want to touch on in here. First is that we went secondhand on all the wood in this room, and there's a lot of it. It's all mid-tone wood, mostly from Facebook Marketplace. Generally, I like to go secondhand on wood. We did one slight modification to the dresser across from me. We just replaced the knobs, which made it a little more modern, a little less grandma's house. We decided to buy new with the bedding and the bed stuff. So I've always kind of wanted like a nice floofy down duvet, and they can be very expensive, but this was one place where I was like, I'm either gonna buy it later or I'm gonna buy it now. So I just got it. So I went to Wirecutter, which is like New York Times, a section where they review products, and they really have everything. They're like top 10 can openers of 2025, but they don't even get you with the top 10. They're like, this is our recommendation, this is our budget recommendation, and then this is our recommendation if like you have this specific type of can. So they're like covering their bases, and they're really like making sure you don't have to think a single thought, which is great. So I leaned on them for some help picking the duvet, and they ended up, their number one like premier pick is company called Feathered Friends, and it's based out of Seattle. And it looks like a cool, like kind of small, specific tailored company that does down products. And so I ended up getting their light California King like duvet. They have different weights because some places are really, really cold. I went with the light since we're in California, but the heavier the weight you get, the more floof you get. So I wish I had more floof. But even then, you can still see like the level of dimension that you don't typically get with like a cheaper down cover. The duvet itself is California king size, and then the duvet cover is from Quince. It's the linen. It's king size. So those two can go together. I was a little worried if that would work out, but it did. So if you're in that niche group of people who's worrying about that specific problem, then don't worry. It's gonna be okay. Hello. Welcome to my office. This is where I work from home like 4 out of 5 days a week as a data analyst. And this is my weird chair that often gets questions. So whenever friends come over, I make them sit in it because it's so comfortable and it looks way weirder than it feels to be in it. It's a bit of a rocking chair. It's a kneeling chair. That's what these are called. It's ergonomic, so it's good for your back. It's good to like keep you moving, and it just feels a lot less irritating than a traditional chair for like long extended periods of sitting. So I highly recommend it. This one was from a company called Verrier. It's based out of Norway, but there's also lots of knockoffs. So, and kneeling chairs were originally invented in 1979, which is what I just Googled. In this corner of the bedroom, we have our keyboard here that my boyfriend plays and I play a little bit, and some guitars and amps and things. I think it's important while you're prioritizing like cleanliness and simplicity and a clean visual palette to look at, that you make room for life, you know, and your hobbies and your interests. This poor apartment has little hobbies shoved into every corner, and we really try to like walk the line of having all our crap out all the time with like doing things we're excited about. So I don't want to like misrepresent and make it seem like everything's like perfectly clean all the time. I have all my sewing stuff shoved in the corner with Philip. I've got all my filming stuff under my bedside table. We've got musical instruments everywhere, especially the couch opens up. I didn't mention that. The couch opens up and it's full of music. So that's life. I feel like the whole point of interior design and like being excited about your space is because, you know, it's a reflection of your inner world, and it's also where you spend your time and do the things you do enjoy. So it all has to like balance together. That's what I'm trying to say. Hello. Haven't found a more graceful way to show you the bathroom than this, so here we are. Two things I'll touch on. We have these cool inserts to a Beastie Boys like album in the bathroom, which are really fun to look at. It's always good to have something entertaining across from the toilet. And then dried flowers are always nice in the bathroom too, because you don't have to change them that often. And that's pretty much it. As you can see, there's like no storage, except this, which is a good thing, because if there were a lot of storage, I would just fill it up. So if there's no storage, you just learn to live with less, which is not a bad thing. So I was so stoked on moving in here that before we even moved in, I was looking online for places to mess around with floor plans. And I found this one that worked for me was called floorplancreator.net. With that, you can, you know, upload an image and kind of trace the walls and sort of get the dimensions going. And so I'll show the mock-up I made. This is before I'd ever moved in. And we actually kind of stuck with that exact layout. It was kind of like the only option I felt for this. In a perfect world, I really love to like decenter the TV and have the living room have chairs that kind of face each other to form a little conversation circle. That's the dream. But, you know, we're human, and in this scenario, there's just not a lot of width here to play with without things getting really cramped for someone to walk by. So in this instance, we decided to prioritize like room to breathe and a comfortable TV watching experience over that like nice conversational setup. But that's something I would love to change in my next apartment. We've made it to the end here. This neighborhood is called the Inner Richmond. So the Richmond is a pretty large neighborhood on like the northwest side of the city. It goes all the way to the ocean, and it's surrounded by Golden Gate Park to the south, and the Presidio hugs it on the north end. So you've got big parks and lots of nature all around. It's generally thought of as like a more slow-paced part of the city. The buildings are a little lower. There's a lot of like families, young families. You see parents zipping around with their kids on e-bikes everywhere. There's lots of cute coffee shops and like really nice restaurants. And the Inner Richmond is the part that's closer to downtown, so it's like a little more hustle and bustle and a little quicker to get to other parts of the city. That's my truth. So thank you for watching. And if you have any questions about anything, let me know.